Hi, everybody. This is Zach Said It Again. I'm your host, Zach Cooley, and I am thrilled to have the executive director of the brand new, beautifully renovated Millwald Theatre in downtown Wytheville. Jeff Potts is on the phone with me. Thank you so much, Jeff, for talking to me this morning.
Hi, Zach. Nice to chat with you.
Well, I really appreciate the great tour you gave me. It really meant a lot to me to see the beautifully refurbished theater that I grew up with, like I've never seen it before, like it should have been seen all along. There is 15,000 square feet of space in that Millwald Theater. And do you know how much of that space was not used originally? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, it's split pretty evenly. 7,500 square feet up, which is the audience chamber and now our concession stand area and restrooms.
Right.
And about 7,500 square feet in the lower level, which was never developed before. And Zach, as you saw, that's where we added in, 4 dressing room suites. We added in administrative office suites. We added in classrooms and a patrons lounge and just a whole bunch of functional areas.
Yes, indeed. And it is one of the most beautiful, impressive spaces that I think our town holds today. As I said, there was a very small area, a very small part of it that was used even as a theater when it was a theater, and then later even less of it when the theater closed in 2004 and they used it as a church. But when I saw it, I was just amazed at the amount of space that I thought, wow, this could have been being used all along. It was never used. As I said in the article, it was always a dream of mine to see the Millwald become refurbished to its original look and be a place where you could see classic movies. I envisioned the newsreels and Donald Duck cartoons being shown before an old film and people coming to see that, and what you all are realizing here in the coming months and already even in the past is pretty close to what I have always dreamed of. I know you're going to see me at the end of the month, March 31st, for Casablanca, and you had White Christmas this past holiday season, and you said that was very successful. So is that going to be a space other than, of course, the live events to show primarily classic films?
Zach, we hope to do a real mix of live entertainment and cinema. The truth is with cinema, right now it's a very inexpensive way for us to start building an audience.
Right.
So the cost to license a film is considerably less than it is to book a band or a comedian or, to do any sort of live production on our stage. And so part of our goal right now is simply to get people in the building. And movies, classic films especially, are a great way to do that.
Yes, indeed. And I'm so looking forward, as I said, to Casablanca. You told me with the licensing of the Warner Brothers catalog, you'd be having Alfred Hitchcock's North by Northwest later in the spring. That got me very excited. Very much looking forward to that one. But one of the things that obviously is most important to me, I'm wheelchair bound, and everywhere I go, I have to make sure that there is accessibility if there's something I want to take part in. And there's a lot of renovations that you guys did in terms of restrooms and putting in an elevator and even a lift to the stage that made the whole building accessible to me. Could you talk about some of that?
Yeah, Zach, when we made the decision to renovate the lower level of this building, we also made the decision to install an elevator. And that came at considerable expense, but it just made sense. If we were going to develop half the building and all of our constituents, all of our supporters couldn't get to it, what was the point? And so once you added that first elevator off of Main Street to get down to the lower level, we really started talking about how do we make sure people can get everywhere if they need to. And, we added in a lift so you can get from the audience chamber up onto the stage. With the help of the Wytheville Community Foundation, we added a freight elevator and loading dock to the back of the building. Again, just with the idea that this whole complex is multi-purpose and everybody needs to access all sorts of things for all sorts of different reasons.
Mm-hmm. And could you also tell me, because you gave me a thrill on that tour that I never expected. I never expected to get on that lift and actually be on the Millwald stage. That was a really big deal because you could feel the history of that place when you were up on that stage. When I was very young, of course there was just a screen there. But of course, originally Millwald was a vaudeville stage. And looking out and seeing those 500 plus seats, you could feel, you were seeing what those vaudeville performers saw in 1928. You were seeing, the possibilities of what could be on that stage: live music, film, live entertainment. Anything there was a real aura there. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Theaters are just magical places, and especially stages. And Zach, like you mentioned, the list we put in so that everybody could get on our stage was really important. And I love sharing that experience with people. When you go back, as you mentioned about the history of vaudeville, so our theater opened in 1928, and the Great Depression hit about a year later, and our stage barely got used before it became a movie house, and that's great. But think about, the intent of this building was to put artists and people on stage and share their talents with our community, and we're finally fulfilling that destiny. Even more cool from my perspective is the Millwald project isn't just about bringing in our artists from outside our community or putting great movies up on that giant screen. It's about making sure members of our community can get on stage. Whether that was, we did a dinner on stage a couple months back, or an award ceremony. Just the opportunity for everybody to get out there and experience what you did. And that's the magic of seeing a theater from a perspective you don't usually get, is just so rewarding, and it just helps keep us going.
And this project must have meant a lot to you, or had a lot of potential for you, because you came all the way from Wisconsin to head the project. So you want to talk a little bit about that? What drew you to Wytheville?
It was really more about the mild winters, I'll be honest. I didn't miss all the snow and cold that Wisconsin brings. But the truth is I love these old theater buildings, and that is point one. But more so, I love what these old buildings mean to a community like Wytheville. I think of Valentine's Day. It fell on a Tuesday this year, and we put up the movie Dirty Dancing, which I knew people would like. I just didn't know that almost 250 people would come out, and parking spots up and down Main Street were full with activity, and restaurants were bustling, and people were spending money and supporting good locally owned businesses. And then they came for a great movie, and that's ultimately what it's about. It's bringing people together to celebrate the arts and culture, but also a real economic stimulant for downtown Wytheville. It's amazing to have hundreds of people downtown doing things. It just creates a good vibe.
Yes, indeed. And it wasn't just the movies and the entertainment that drew you to the Millwald project. It is the classrooms and the spaces that are available for local artisans and art education, theater education, things like that. You want to talk about that area of the theater?
Absolutely. You know, part of our funding to get this project off the ground included a couple of things, and one of them was that we had to hire a full-time staff. And so it's a really great opportunity. We have 5 members on our team right now, and we're really working to bring some special things to the Millwald. The second part of that was, you know, we have to do good things. We're a nonprofit organization, so we have to be accessible to people, to ideas, and with the help of the Wytheville Community Foundation, we're just scratching the surface on that. They helped fund a really nice grant for free community programming. So, like this week, we're doing, you know, a Doc Watson 100th birthday party concert, and the goal is to highlight Doc's contributions to our own community, and we actually have people from Wytheville that played with Doc Watson, and they're going to share stories, and that's all made possible because the Community Foundation sees the value in us doing cultural-based things for people of Wytheville and Bland County, and it's also made possible by the fact that, you know, people are willing to support our paid events. We're trying to do both things here, offer really good things to the community at an affordable rate, and offer really high-class, world-class touring artists. And sometimes that gets a little expensive, but I've been really happy with the response we've had so far with people supporting us at all levels.
I'm very glad to hear that. You obviously have been a lifelong patron of the arts and lover of the arts. I don't think you'd be here in this position if you weren't. Could you tell me what are your favorite kinds of movies? What kind of movies move you the most?
Oh, you know, I like things from my childhood. So for me, it's the Star Wars trilogy, the early ones. It's films like Stand By Me, those coming-of-age epics that I just remember as a youth going to Footloose, E.T., all sorts of things from, you know, the 80s and 90s. I think for most people, why you become a movie buff is at that very impressionable age in your youth. When you see these, your mind just wanders and expands anytime you see one. And, you know, if you catch that bug early, you're a movie fan for life.
You bet. E.T.'s a great one. Any chance we might get that one? Or is that what you described to me as a $400 movie?
That is indeed what I describe as a $400 movie. So, what people don't know is every time we put a film on our screen, you know, we have to pay to do that, and rightfully so. Artists deserve to get paid for their work. And most films, if you just say, hey, you know, Raiders of the Lost Ark's coming up, and yeah, we paid $405 or 50% of the box office, whichever is greater. We recently did get a deal with Warner Brothers Studios, so we now have access to all of their films, and it brings our costs down considerably. So you'll see us dabbling a lot more in Warner Brothers titles than non-Warner Brothers. But you know, the truth is, if you want to show Star Wars: A New Hope, you gotta pony up, and it's worth it. And you know, that's one of the other things that people have to understand is, you know, we're a professional venue now, and when we sell tickets, we add fees, and we add a historic restoration fee. And I'll admit, I buy a lot of concert tickets, and man, I hate when they put a ton of fees on them. But
me too.
But you know, Zach, the truth is in any of these arrangements with licensing a title of a film or a band, you negotiate the ticket price, and the artist gets most of that. And so where my little nonprofit theater actually makes our money is in those fees. Sure. And the box office fee actually just is a pass-through. It pays for our ability to accept credit cards and have a ticketing system and the equipment that we need to run all of that. And then, you know, for movies, we add $1 historic restoration fee, and that helps pay for this project. It helps pay for ongoing maintenance. And it's just a little bit extra that, we do try to collect every time they sell a ticket. So I know people hate fees, but they are a necessary part of what's going to keep us alive.
Well, it's a little different to pay $1 or $2 fee for the Millwald than it is to pay a $30 fee on one ticket that's already $150 for Ticketmaster. There's just
exactly, and we're true, and we don't want to ever get in that category. But yeah, it's worth talking about. What we are new. We've never done concerts in this venue before, so we're learning a lot, and our audience is learning a lot. So if people have feedback, best way to get that feedback heard is to come to a show and just say hi. We're always here. Let us know what you think, and we're always open to suggestions.
Great. Well, and that being said, you said you loved Star Wars. So, and I believe it was my understanding when we had the tour that you said you hoped that Star Wars would be coming later on.
Oh, it's happening.
It'll happen one way or another.
It's going to happen this May. We're just putting together the final touches, and we should be ready to announce that officially in a couple weeks.
Great. And then we'll be seeing North by Northwest later in the spring, I hope.
I hope so, too. My calendar's filling up, but we definitely got to dive into some Hitchcock.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And one thing, as I was looking out over that stage that you were telling me, I am a sucker for nostalgia, and to go into something and live life as though I was in a 1950s movie, So one of the things as I was looking out over that stage, you said, and correct me if I had this wrong, because I may, was it the ceiling tiles that you said were recreated to look as they would have looked in 1928?
Yeah, so all the ceiling tiles, there's like 416 of them or something. They were all restored to the decorations, the design, and the colors that would have been original to our opening in 1928. Last summer, these artists came in and they had these great stencils, and they were up there, 3 of them working, and it was amazing to watch this come back together. But that really adds just a neat ambiance and some character. And, Zach, when you're sitting there waiting for a movie to start and you're just kind of staring up in this big old theater building looking at the decorative artwork, it just adds to it, and it reminds you how special of a place the Millwald really is.
Absolutely, and it's very special to me, as I've told you. My mother is still a very big movie buff, and just saw any kind of movie at any level. And I remember many times going to see movies, Mrs. Doubtfire, The Muppet Christmas Carol, Hook, when they re-released the Disney movies, Jungle Book, and a lot of times it was just me and her. And of course, I told you my favorite story about my great-grandmother and I going to see 101 Dalmatians, and we were the only 2 in the theater in July of 1991. And that memory always, when I don't go into the Millwald that I don't think of that and kind of get a lump in my throat. And I think a lot of people have connections to Millwald in that way, and having it refurbished in such a way will give opportunity for me to have memories like that with my daughter, and I just think it's very special.
Yeah, Zach, you just nailed it, and that's the power of this theater. Is as we've dusted off these classic movies, to see parents and grandparents introducing these to a whole new generation of fans, and that whole communal aspect of going to see these glorious films surrounded by 100, 200 people, and you laugh together, you cry together, you gasp together when you're surprised. Mm-hmm. It truly is magic, and I'm not just saying that to sell some tickets. It's an experience that you just can't get anymore, and I think that's people are really, really excited and appreciative to have that back.
Yeah, and when you see one of these movies, you go to see it with your grandparents, and they can say, You know, I saw that movie at the Millwald when it was in its original run, and that kind of thing. That kind of thing is really, really neat. I can remember my great grandmother telling me the story of going to see White Christmas at the Millwald in 1954 when it came out, and they came out and it was snowing. You know, just the same as at the end of the movie, it snows, and you had that last Christmas. So those kinds of things you can't put a price on, and I think it's really special. But I want to mention some other things that you've got here that I didn't talk about. You've got a patrons lounge. You've got a whole new concession room. You have the classrooms. I loved what you said when I got on the lift. You said, I hope you get up okay. If you don't, I'll give you the name of our architect. I thought that was fantastic. You have a private hallway so that entertainers can enter and exit beneath the crowd of people. But I think one of the things that intrigued me the most was the orchestra pit. Can you talk a little bit about that before we go?
Yeah, so in the lower level of our building, when you're back among the artist dressing rooms, there's literally this old curved brick wall. And when you open up the door, it's now a storage room. The ceiling is no taller than the door itself. And that was the orchestra pit when they first built the theater in 1928. Where the ceiling is, it's pretty clear they covered it up right away because they knew they weren't going to use it once it became a movie house. But yeah, on a tour, it's a great story and really a great reminder of how this building has transformed in its 94 and a half years of existence. And it's pretty cool to think about, again, what this community must have wanted and expected from this building in 1928 and how we've come this far to fulfill that destiny of its stage and its screen and as a gathering place for everybody in the region.
And I think it's an amazing thing that, as you said, the building is 94 and a half years old and has been left unused for so long that one would think, that the old phrase used around here, that it's gone past going, that at 94 and a half years old, it would be looking at the end of its life, but you have renewed it so that it seems like it can be just the beginning, and I know that's the goal for everything.
Indeed, that is the goal, Zach. And, we just got to keep programming events and opening our doors to the community, and we will be very successful and be here for a very long time to come. Well,
and I certainly hope so. And it's, been, as I said, one of my dreams personally for my hometown where I've lived all my life. And thank you and all the wonderful people who have put all this together and made this happen. And thank you for a most wonderful tour. I won't forget it. I will never forget that experience. And you were very kind to do this. So
awesome. Thank you, Zach. I enjoyed it, and I like getting to know you. And there's always going to be a great classic movie for you to come enjoy here at the Millwald.
Oh,
thank you for your support.
Anytime. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the tour. Thank you for allowing me to do part of my work to help Millwald. Thank you for making it accessible to me. You can't imagine what that means. I'm looking forward to a long relationship with you all in the future.
Thanks, Zach. Keep up the great work. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. You do the same. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.